Yeah, trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center, hit it dead center. Bullseye, hit it the most, there's no misses. Something like fish in a barrel, it's no different. Blindfold on me, I still got the most vision.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Carnivore Evolution podcast. Today we have a special guest. Today we have Jonathan all the way from Norway, who's a fellow carnivore, and he's actually a young fellow carnivore, which is very, very odd. Jonathan, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Thanks for coming on. I've heard your story. I've listened to your story on many, many occasions, and I wanted you to come on my podcast and explain it today. So we're here to listen to it. So before we start talking about carnivore, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for asking me to come on here. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, my story, we kind of have to go all the way back to when I was a child. I pretty much always had issues with my gut. Like when I was a really small child, or like a baby pretty much, still in diapers, my mom's told me that it was either like they had to help me, like press my legs and everything to try and push everything out, or I spray painted the walls brown. So it was already pretty extreme from a very early age. And I also, like, once I started in kindergarten and school and stuff, I had social issues, or mental issues as well, right? I was not very confident. I didn't really believe in myself, didn't know how to talk to people, right? I kept to myself, was very shy, the typical shy boy in class, right? And I had a lot of anger issues as well. And it especially came out when, like, attention was directed at me in class. So I think it's probably connected to all that, like, anxiety stuff for me, right? And yeah, I got older, and I didn't only grow in height and age, I also grew, like, in all other directions. I started becoming the fat kid. And imagine what that did to my confidence, right? Just straight down the toilet. And I started having a lot of skin issues, acne, dry skin, my self-worth was non-existent, right? I didn't know what to do with myself. And it just kept going, kept getting worse, and never really got any much better. And especially towards the year 2023, that's when everything kind of developed into my rock bottom moment, the lowest point in my life. And it started with me wanting to lose some weight. I fell into this typical thing of calorie counting. It's very typical for people my age, right? That want to take their health into their own hands and start getting fit and stuff. And honestly, it did actually help. I started looking better. Of course, I had the idea of, if I get a six-pack, all my issues will be gone. And so I got to that point, was fit, and started actually feeling better. I did, honestly. And being more confident, more, like, comfortable in my own skin. But it didn't last too long, because this calorie counting stuff, right? It's not about nourishing yourself. It's not about nutrition. It's just about volume eating, really. It's like your idea of being full is bloating your stomach as much as possible, looking like a gorilla or something. So it was basically this typical balanced diet, right? Low fat, a lot of plants to fill my stomach up, lean protein, right? Greek yogurt, chicken, breast, that sort of thing. So after I had a period of feeling better, it just developed into something that was even worse than I had ever experienced before. My mental health just, it hit a real low point. I had IBS, like sitting on the toilet constantly every day for like 3 hours maybe, just trying to get something out. I was so constipated and so bloated. I started isolating myself. This stuff kind of took over my life, right? And I started treating people around me very poorly, cutting people out. I was in a very deep depressive state. I just stayed in my room all the time, just wandering around every day, being stuck in my own head, having no direction really. Just my life wasn't going anywhere. I was lost, right? And I felt like I had no control. This was just my destiny. I can't do anything about it, right? I was unlucky, as many people think about themselves when they have these issues. Yeah, so at this point, it was so bad, I was honestly looking for a way out, and not in the good sense, right? I don't think, if I hadn't found the carnivore lifestyle, right, I don't think I would actually still be alive. That's how bad it was.
That's actually incredible coming from a young man. Do you mind if we actually go deep into this? Like, when can you pinpoint you are really struggling? At what age? Like, did you find out, well, you know what, there's something wrong here. I don't like this feeling. Tell me about how low your confidence was when you started. What age?
Okay, so I would say, I mean, my confidence issues and stuff, as long as I can remember, really, they were there. Like, I never really had any real friends in school and stuff, right? I fell into the gaming stuff, sitting in my bedroom just playing games all day. Not very good for me either. That probably just exacerbated all my issues. But, like, the lowest point of it, I would say around like 18, 19, all that. And yeah, I don't know, I was living inside of my own head, like, just, I don't know. At some point, I think this kind of paints the picture, or it's not just painting the picture, it's telling how I felt or how I experienced the world. I started actually sort of creating this fantasy world inside of my own head, right? Where I made up characters for the people around me, how things looked around me, for myself as well. Like, of course, a very confident little guy. Because the real world was too much to handle for me. I couldn't bear, like, the thought of it, and just seeing other people around me being happy and stuff, that was even too much, right? I was so resentful. But definitely the worst part of it was during that whole calorie counting phase, where I was eating low fat, like the typical, like, balanced diet, like the health guidelines stuff, and a lot of vegetables and stuff. It was practically a plant-based diet, right? Most of the food I was eating was plant-based. I don't know how deep the depression is like, I mean, it was very deep. As I said, I didn't want to be here anymore, right? I went to bed just hoping I wouldn't wake up, right?
And did you ever think that I'll speak to my parents? Like, did you ever think that you were lonely, you weren't getting enough support? Like, where were you? Did you feel like the world was just caving in on you? It was just you against the world, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I was extremely, like, misanthropic at this point, like, just hating the world, hating humanity, hating myself. I almost wanted to keep myself down, right? I never went for help from anyone, not even my parents, not a doctor or anything. I just kept it to myself, and it's so hard to explain, right? And it's hard to think of as well. Because I almost can't imagine it anymore, right? I don't. I almost just wanted to destroy myself, right? It was so self-destructive, and I can't even explain it almost, right? Yeah.
And when you were going through all this, did you convince yourself if I just change my body image, I'll be happy, or was it deeper than that?
I think at some point, yeah, in 2023, when I did that switch, right, of trying to eat healthier and doing the calorie counting stuff, I think basically in my mind it was, oh, if I get that six pack, everything will be fixed, right? But yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Definitely.
and when you start learning about diets, like where did you get your information from? Like, were you looking on YouTube, social media, magazines? Like, where did you come across this information?
Yeah, I was watching YouTube mostly. I wasn't really on any other social media, right? I didn't want to bump into other people. But I would say people like Greg Doucette, like
Mm,
Will Tennyson, though
mm,
that kind of group of people. I don't remember the names of everyone, but like,
mm.
yeah, that area of YouTube. uh,
And what kind of diets? Like, talk me. How many diets did you go through? I know you said you spoke about you went on plant-based, but did you try anything else like high carbohydrates, proteins? I know you said you focused a lot on calories. Like, how many diets did you go through in your life before you eventually got it right?
Okay, so I never really had an idea in my head of all these like labels for the diets. Like the plant-based stuff is just something I've realized now that that's practically what I was doing. The balanced diet, right?
Mm,
I was at the time I was just focused on the calorie counting. I thought that was
okay.
all it was about.
Yeah. No matter what you were eating, whether it was a bar of chocolate or a piece of steak, it was just a calorie at the end of the day.
Yes, but one thing I want to add to it is, because that's one point a lot of people bring up, is, oh, but it just came down to the ultra processed foods. But
Hmm.
the thing is, I was actually staying away from that stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
One thing is, I was already aware of all the seed oil stuff through my brother.
Hmm.
My entire family switched over to using butter instead of that stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
But and also the ultra processed stuff, it didn't fit into counting calories. That stuff is high in calories,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
it didn't work with that. So I was actually pretty much without exception, of course, some small exceptions, but
Hmm.
mostly like just 99.5%. I was eating whole foods. That was it. Like Greek yogurt, lean protein, like chicken and stuff, lean ground beef, uh, fruits, vegetables, nuts, maybe once in a while, not that much because of course they are high in calorie,
Hmm.
but yeah, and the vegetables it was a lot, right? Because that those help fill me up, right? And I was also under the impression at some point that the fiber would help me with my constipation and IBS issues,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
now I know that's definitely not true. Yeah.
So for a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, they're going to be saying, okay, well, his diet was actually very, very healthy. So what was the problem? Why did he still struggle with his mental health?
Yeah, well, great question. And I would say exactly that's the problem. I was eating the standard type of diet. Uh, Low fat and high plant, right? The plant anti-nutrients, the toxins from there. Remember, carbohydrates like sugar, I
Hmm.
would classify that as a toxin too. It's not an exception on that list. And low fat, you're not gonna fuel your hormones. You're not gonna give your brain what it needs, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that's the problem. Even though I would say ultra processed foods, they're probably worse, right? But it's an example that doesn't have to be the source of the issues. I definitely wasn't fueling my body right. I didn't get the nutrients my brain and body needed, and I had so many gut irritants, right? Anti-nutrients stuff that was making me bloated and just, yeah. hopefully that answers.
Okay, so you did that for a couple of years. So eventually then you did move into carnivore. What happened next? Did you go into keto? What was the next step?
Okay, so the journey to carnivore is actually, my story there is quite crazy, or very interesting or different in many ways, in that the turning point for me was actually late summer that year, 2023. The same year I started all the calorie counting stuff, and I had like the absolute worst IBS attack of my life. Completely like bloated, like, yeah, I don't even want to think about it almost, right? Like, if you can imagine like 1,000 bees maybe like running around inside me, just stinging me and bloating me, making me look like a pregnant woman, feeling all scratched up from the inside. It was stinging. I couldn't sleep for like 2-3 days. I felt so awful. It was truly the rock bottom of everything. But the good thing here is it also made me stop and think. For myself, I realized I can't keep on living with this, right? I have to seriously make a change. Because even though I had all those mental issues and stuff, I also remember always having the thought in the back of my head that I really want to live, if that makes sense. I want to have that feeling. I just can't. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't exist for me. But yes, back to what happened. So after that event, I just thought to myself, it's because it was the gut I was focused on, my IBS issues. And I thought to myself, like, obviously it has to be something in my diet that caused this. That's the logical answer. And I started thinking and came to the conclusion that there was one food item that I hadn't had in a while, which was an apple, right? And a couple of days later, I tried it again and all the issues came back. So from this point on, I started connecting the dots, right? Just realizing to myself that, yes, it truly does make a difference what I put down my mouth and into my gut. Because I experienced that just switch going on and off. So on my own, for 2 months maybe, I just experimented on my own. At this point, I wasn't aware of any of these diet things on the internet, except for the calorie counting stuff. And yeah, during those months, the 2 months, I just, every time I cut out plants, I noticed I started feeling better. Every time I just noticed that they made me feel worse. So it was less and less plants, and of course, since I knew some stuff about how diet and metabolism works, I guess, not to an advanced degree at this point, of course I had to compensate with something. So I started upping my animal foods at the same time and had to add in more fat, of course, right? Because I had to live off something. And yeah, so the plants came down, and at the end I only had one plant food left, and that was an avocado. So when I sat down with my meal that day, it's a pretty funny story. I had the avocado next to some eggs and ground beef or something like that. And when I went to take a bite of this avocado, I had this like visceral just reaction of disgust and feeling like it tastes like poison. Like at this point, you know, I had made the decision that I just have to listen to my body. This is what I have to do to find relief. It's giving me the signals. I don't know. It's some instincts just turned on for me after that IBS episode. And I just started following my intuition and just really connecting with my body and connecting the dots, right? So when I got this just reaction in me from this avocado, I just thought, I have to like just throw this thing in the bin. I'm not going to eat it because this is my body telling me something. I don't know why I thought this, but it's just, I had decided this for myself. And I was at this point starting to feel better, right? Relief in my gut and starting to feel a little clearer in the mind. And from that day on, I have pretty much been 100% carnivore. And if you want, I can actually get into the story of how I found out about this entire thing on the internet too.
Yeah,
because
let's go.
It happened quite rapidly, actually. I would say about 3 days. Like all this stuff is kind of a blur to me, right? With where my mental state was. But when I'm thinking back on it, I think it's about 3 days into being fully carnivore. I just suddenly woke up from like a great night of sleep. I'd never experienced it in my life. And just this crazy amount of energy. And suddenly it was like this plastic wrap I had around my head with all this depression and brain fog and anxiety. It just suddenly went away by itself. Like all my anger, all my sadness, everything, it was just gone. I was a completely different person. I just stood up from my bed instantly. No snooze button, right? I just got up and walked out the door. I just had to move. I had to do something. I couldn't sit still, right? And what I did that day was I contacted my parents for the first time really in a pretty long while. My isolation and like being stuck in my room, it also included not really being in good contact with my parents. So yes, when I called my mom that day, I started telling her like, so I've been experimenting with my diet, right? And this is what I'm doing now, right? I'm prepared to be the person sounding so crazy. Like this sounds so stupid to someone from the outside, just eating meat, eggs and fish and butter and stuff. But for some reason I just had the confidence in me out of nowhere to just like stand in my own ground and call my mom and tell her this is what I'm doing and I don't understand what's happening with me, but I just suddenly feel so good. I feel amazing. Like what's going on? And that's when she started telling me that she goes to Pilates, right? And a lot of people in that community actually, they do this sort of diet, carnivore, keto, low carb stuff. So she already knew about others doing it from there and they do it for their own health. And also she had heard about it from social media. And that's when I started looking into it myself, because of course I had the same questions as everyone else. Like I'm used to hearing all the same messages about like heart healthy, like spreads and like the plants are the stuff that's good for us and everything, cholesterol, those type of stuff. And meat being bad for your heart and everything, and also that you need sugar for your brain and everything. So I had all those questions, and of course, but I was in a unique position where I almost didn't need justification, right? But I've always still been a curious person where I want to know, why is this doing this to me? Why am I feeling this way? So I started seeing other people's stories, right? I think that's probably the most powerful thing. That's how we as humans connect and learn things down generations. At least that's how we have done it historically. Maybe we're a bit disconnected from that right now, but I think it's great we're getting back to it with doing this, right? So yes, I started like finding the information, you know, Anthony Chaffee, Ken Berry, Bart Kay. I love Bart Kay. It's probably my absolute favorite. And all that, learning everything about this, like why it actually does work and I can do this. I'm not going to sit here with scurvy. I would have already had it, right? It appears within like 4 to 5 weeks. My grandpa still believes you're going to get it within a year. But yeah, it did really help to go out there and hear everyone's stories, right? On Dave Mack's show and stuff, seeing, you know, other people struggle like me and got the exact same results. This isn't just a fad or like a short-term thing. I can actually just sustain this and keep doing it. And I don't have any reason to stop doing it. Why would I ever want to go back to how my life was, right? And I don't view food in that way anymore. There's this sort of weird switch that goes on in your brain where, you know, food is just, I go eat. I usually eat 1 meal a day, a pretty large meal, and then I go on with my day. That's it. I don't think about food. It's just there to nourish me, right? It's not to like be there. It's not supposed to be there for entertainment, you know. I enjoy my food, but it's not a source of entertainment. And yeah, at this point, I don't care about what others think, right? I'm doing this for my own sake, my own health, and I know with myself what this has done, right? I know how depressed I was, how awful I was feeling, how bloated I was every day, and I know now it's just gone. Everything is effortless, right? Bowel movements effortless, my life effortless. Even like we're not effortless getting on here talking about this. Of course, it's hard. This is such personal thing, but before you would like never even get me on here to do anything like this, speak in public, like that would, no, not even in front of my class. I would get like some sort of tics actually when I had presentations in the class. I don't know what it came from, like my anxiety or whatever. I don't have an explanation, and my heart racing, right now I'm just calm. I'm high energy, but that's just how I am. Maybe it's because I'm still young. Or the carnivore diet.
No, that's something that I've noticed when I went on the carnivore diet. I'm so calm. I don't get anxious. I don't get angry. I'm just very relaxed. Nothing phases me. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest takeaway I took out of it. I was like, wow, nothing actually gets to me anymore. I'm just very, very relaxed.
Yeah, you just feel this sense of content and gratitude all the time. It's just, and effortlessly, you don't have to work for it.
Because when you think about it, you're feeding your brain too much sugar. It's going to have an effect on you. That's when you're going to be anxious. You're going to be, you know what I mean? You're going to be thinking, you're going to be overthinking things. You're going to be constantly on the go. You're not allowing your brain to relax because that sugar rush is there all the time. It's like, you want to get things done and you're fidgeting and you're moving around too much. You're just not allowing yourself to just, you know what, take a deep breath and just relax. And that's something that we see nowadays, that there's so many people that are struggling mentally because they're just feeding their brain too much crap.
Yeah, definitely. And I see it so much, like just like in my generation, people my age, my peers, people I used to go to class with, right? I see like many of them have moved and stuff, right, to other cities studying and stuff, but you still see them putting stuff out on the internet. Not that I paid much attention to it, but once in a while I see it, and you can just tell already at this age, people are just fading away, right? Just wasting their lives doing this I don't know, they're not going anywhere, just eating so much junk and partying all the time, like drinking, like all the hedonistic behaviors, like the short-term pleasure satisfaction, right? It also goes for like relationships, like, right? Going into meaningless relationships, which I also did at some point, and it's not good for you. That's the kind of stuff that keeps you stuck, right? If you want to like start maybe questioning yourself, where do I actually want to be 10 years from now, right? Do I want to, or also look around yourself. If you go into your city, what is it you see around you? Is that a good thing? A lot of fat, lost, sick people on like a dozen medications. Do you want to be one of those, like one of the sheep? Or do you want to be the exception, right? Do you want to fuel yourself in a way where you will actually be able to reach all your goals, achieve what you want in life, build a great family, and just set yourself up as early as you can for success in every way you can, right?
I think that's what everybody wants, and especially people that are your age. People your age just want to be healthy. They want to be successful. They just want to do well in life, and they just don't know where to start. They don't know what direction to go in. That's why they go to college, but they end up getting bad habits. Like a lot of people go to college, they end up drinking alcohol, they smoke, they vape. A lot of people will sit at home, just play video games, and they end up developing these bad habits. So you can see where it starts from. The education that we have is wrong. When we do try and educate these students or these young kids, the information that we're being given them is wrong, because when we look at your story, you were convinced, like say 6 years ago, that you were eating healthy, but the foods that you were eating, yes, you may have looked amazing, but on the inside you were feeling like crap. It was still impacting your mental health, and this is something that we just don't see. I could easily talk to a 21-year-old on the streets, and I would look at this person and say, "Oh, she's okay. She looks amazing. She's got the abs. She looks amazing." But you don't know what they're feeling like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we look at mental health is such a big thing now in young kids, and nobody speaks about it, because young kids like you, they just keep it in. They feel like they can find it. They can find their way themselves, and they feel the only way to improve it is having those negative thoughts and going to the gym. But when they go to the gym, again, they're filling their bodies full of crap. They're focusing on these protein bars, these protein powders. They're taking in too much sugar. And what they're doing is they're trying to fix a problem that's never going to be able to fix. And it's amazing someone like you who found his own way, because a lot of people don't actually find their way until they actually get older, until they actually get desperate. There's a lot of people out there, when they get into their 40s, they're going through menopause, or they're obese, or they've developed type 2 diabetes or any kind of disease. And then they get the bad news from the doctor. That's when they're saying, "Oh shit, I need to do something about my health." But it's amazing listening to someone like you, who's only a young man, and realize, you know what, I need help. And maybe I can't get any help. Maybe I need to sort this out for myself. Maybe I need to find my answers myself. And eventually you did. And honestly, when I hear your story over and over and over again, it's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible, because, as I mentioned, there's not many people like you that are actually doing this.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that my story resonates, and absolutely, like you say, like, people are just ruining themselves even without knowing. And that's the worst part. It's so sad to see how most of us humans, right, people who end up doing this carnivore thing, they end up here because they hit that moment of desperation. And like, just sitting here knowing that you don't have to reach that point and
Mm.
all that. It just makes me almost even more riled up to keep just spreading this message and shouting it as loud as I can. But the difficult part of it is, right, we can sit here and talk about it as much as we want, but people have to actually want to make the change for themselves, right? It has to come from within, at the end of the day. But definitely, like, I think just as much as we can talk about it, right, it will plant seeds, eventually, and people will hear it and eventually want to make a change. I don't know if people hear it enough times, maybe they realize, oh, I do actually struggle with this and this, and yeah, maybe I will make the change. And of course, there's a lot of the social pressure side of it, right? Falling into the partying and the bad habits and all that. And our society is built up in a way where that's almost what you're told you should do. And yeah, I hope in some way that we can just at least start to turn this around. And I feel like I'm already seeing it, right? I am already seeing a lot of people starting to take their health into their own hands, like not relying on the system to take care of it for them. Because at the end of the day, no one else is going to come to save you, right? My story is maybe an extreme example of it, right? Most people at that young age don't hit such a rock bottom so quickly, but still, there's no one else that can make this choice for you, right? You're the one who has to realize for yourself that, you know what, if I just take control of my own life, my own health, my diet as early as possible, I will actually get out of this with like the best possible situation as well, right? The earlier you do it, the better off you'll be as well.
But I understand what you're saying, but I think where the problem is when we're focusing too much, and like you said at the very beginning, you're focusing on the likes of the bodybuilders like Greg Doucette's, and you're looking at all these top influencers, and you're thinking that, okay, if I just follow what these people are doing, I'm going to be healthy. And I don't agree with that, because that's what I used to do. I used to follow like who did I was following like the likes of Jay Cutler, and there's a few other people on social media. But when I look back at what they were eating, I was like, okay, that's what I used to do. I used to focus a lot on just protein, and I used to eat clean carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. And like you, my diet was clean. In my opinion, when I look back then, I was like, okay, it's clean. I don't eat processed food. I'm not a big fan of sugar. So everything I was eating was healthy. So why did I feel crap? Yes, I looked amazing. I had the six pack, but yes, I had the confidence when I took my top off, but I didn't feel that confidence. And that's where I struggled with for a long time. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. I see an awful lot of young kids that are trying to fix their lives, and they think that if I just follow these people and just have a six pack, then I'm gonna be happy. But that's the wrong way to do it. You should be focusing on your health. We shouldn't be focusing on how you look, because how you look is not the same as how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, if you're looking good, maybe it will help in some respects, right? But as you say, still, how are you looking on the inside? How are you looking inside here? Not just like health wise, like with your gut and heart and arteries and everything. If you're so obsessed about like how you're looking all the time, that would indicate you're not actually in a good mental state, right? Because you shouldn't have to go around worrying about it. It's such a shame that people have been conned into this whole like protein thing, and protein shakes and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't know.
And isn't it amazing that most young teenagers now are spending most of their money on supplements instead of real food?
Yeah, and it all comes from, like you said, like a visual, like materialistic thing, if you can call it that, and that's not the way we should look at health. Yeah.
Yeah, because more people will look at it and say, well, what's more appealing, a protein shake or a chicken breast? Most people are going to look at the protein shake and say, well, it tastes good, so I'm going to have the protein shake. People will look at it and say, look, okay, this influencer has told me if I have a protein shake that has 30 grams of protein and a chicken breast that has 30 grams of protein, then what's the difference? I'll just have the protein shake. But then they realize that nothing is changing. If anything, they're probably going to their mental health is going to go to shit. The amount of sugar they're taking in, eventually they're going to become pre-diabetic. You know what I mean? They're going to put the weight on. They're not going to have a clue why they're struggling with their weight all the time. You know what I mean? And this is why we need, like you mentioned, we need to move away from calories. What we see on a packet with all this marketing rubbish, that if you just eat this protein bar that has 90 calories on it, you're going to be okay. But what we should be doing is turning that bar around and looking at what's on the back of it and looking at the ingredients, the amount of sugar that's in these packets. And we need to understand how much sugar we're consuming on a week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis, year-to-year basis. And that's where a lot of people don't understand. People think that sugar is just part of the diet. It's normal. And it doesn't help when we have these influencers that are saying that you should eat sugar in moderation, there's no problems. Whereas when we look at people like you couldn't deal with the amount of sugar in your body. It almost killed you. You didn't want to be here. And when I hear stuff like that from a young man, that upsets me, really upsets me, because I know you're not the only one. And that's why I can't blame the parents for this. I blame the system, because you've been forced to buy this food. You go into the shop, you don't know any better. You know what I mean? And when you're getting the information that you should be getting, which is someone like you and other people that are in the carnivore community, when they listen to people like you, they'd be like, this guy's crazy. Like, why would you eat fat? Fat is going to kill you. Too much cholesterol is going to kill you. So why would I listen to this? This guy's actually going to give me a heart attack. It's only a matter of time. But you've been doing carnivore for how long now?
I've been doing it since, I would say the rough estimate is like since October 2023. So,
and you've still,
what's that, 20 months?
And you still haven't had a heart attack yet?
Not yet. I'm waiting. Still no scurvy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, you know, it's like crazy.
One of the unfortunate, with that, right? One of the unfortunate mindset things that in our culture today, especially in my generation, that I see is this unwillingness of actually listening to the other side and stuff. People instantly, when they hear someone who has a different opinion, it seems like they almost already decided that this person is my enemy. They're wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not even going to be willing to question my preconceived notions about this. I am correct. You're wrong. My point of being in this discussion with you is just to tell you I'm right. Exactly. You're wrong. I'm not even willing to listen. Right. And I think actually when I think back to my time in school, I think we've been taught this way. They've been learning us these, or teaching us these behaviors. Cause all the time, it's been teaching us what to think instead of how to think for ourselves. Right. And also this thing of the victimhood mentality. I don't think that helps anyone. Right. I was at that point somewhere in my story, right? Just thinking, why is this happening to me? Why did I have to have this life? And what can I can't do anything about it, but that kind of stuff is just keeping you stuck. We've been told our entire lives that, this is just in your family or your genes, or you can't do anything about it. And really, it's just in what you're eating. Look at that label, and you actually have more power, and you have the strength inside of yourself to make the change and take control of your own health. You just have to decide to do it, right? And like falling into that victimhood mentality, I know how easy that is, right? But it's keeping you stuck. It's not doing you any good. And yeah, just start being aware of, like, just because someone's telling you a certain message, it doesn't mean it's for your own good, right? There's maybe an agenda behind it. Someone has an interest and all that. Someone wants to sell you that protein bar or the protein shake. Why is that? Is it to help you? Is it to keep you addicted? I would say so.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's just basically discipline will only get you so far.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're gonna hit a wall, and it's like, okay, where do you go from there?
Yeah, and I think with that, like, the most important thing in all this is really connecting with your own reason for why you want to make this change, right? Because you can have all the discipline in the world. You're surrounded by all these messages. You're surrounded by all these addictive foods. When I, a couple of days, walked into town, or walked through town, I got hit in the face with, like, the smell of donuts and churros and all that stuff. To me, that's just, the smell of it is repulsive at this point. I don't like it. It's horrible. But still, you're surrounded by it, and it's addictive, even just the smell of it. And discipline will only get you so far, because your hormones are not wired to be surrounded by all this stuff. Your body isn't designed for it. So you need to find a sort of motivation that doesn't rely on a magical, like, motivation, if you will. Like, you can't just wait for that motivation to appear on its own. It has to, I think, it has to come from within, that why do you want to do this for yourself. That's what's gonna keep you sticking to whatever it is you're doing to change your life and take control and everything, you know. And it's not, I would say, it's not even good enough to just think, I want to lose some fat, right? Why do you want to lose that fat? Oh, I want to feel better. Or, still not really good enough. You have to go deeper. Why do you want to feel good? Oh, I want to, I don't know, start doing something with your life. Oh, why do you want to do that? Or what is it you want to do, right? Build a family, build my business, all that sort of stuff. You have to get so much deeper than just a surface level for it to stick, in my opinion.
Yeah, and 100%. I mean, that's something that we need to move away from, because when you ask somebody, like, I know you'll do this eventually when you get into coaching, people will come to you and say, well, Jonathan, I want to lose weight. And that's what people will always say. I just want to lose weight. And you'll ask them, okay, but why do you want to lose weight? Oh, I just want to lose weight to be healthy. And I'm like, okay, but, like, you need to go, like you said, you need to go deeper than that, because the more deeper you go into your reason why, then you will never fail, because you know what you're doing it for. You're like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody has a personal reason why. And when you understand what you're actually doing it for, then every single day you wake up with that vision. You're like, you know what? I'm waking up today no matter what, even though I had a bad night's sleep or whatever. You're still going to wake up with that vision in your head, because you know what you're doing it for. Whereas when we're focused too much on weight, it's too easy, because we can let go of that very, very quickly. We can fall into those bad habits again, and we can just say, you know, okay, I'll put the weight back on. I'm happy with it. I'll deal with it in a few months' time. But if you have it, let's say if you have an issue, let's say you're going through, like, cancer, stage 4 cancer, and you know you have a chance of reversing that in 6 months. Let's say someone tells you in like you've got a chance of reversing this stage 4 cancer in 6 months' time. Are you actually going to put everything into this in the next 6 months with your diet? Of course you are, because if you don't, you're probably not going to be here. So something like that, that's what we need to be focusing on. What is your reason why? Why do you want to do this? And when you focus deep into that, that's where I see people make the biggest progress. And that's the best thing about carnivore. And when we mentioned earlier, it's unfortunate that people only get into this when they're really desperate. Like when they're going through the PCOS, the endometriosis, fibromyalgia, type 2 diabetes, obesity, like the list goes on and on and on. And that's when they're like, okay, now I need to do something. I need to understand, okay, listen, I've been doing the diets all my life. It's not working. I've been listening to the dietitians and the nutritionists. It's not working. I've been focusing on counting my calories every single day. It's not working. I need to look at something else here. Something is not right. I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. So if I had a choice between medication and food, which one am I going to choose? Most people, I'm hoping, will choose the food over the medication.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. But, you know, there's also, like, people are so addicted with this stuff that many people actually, unfortunately, fall into the trap of wanting that quick way out, sort of managing their symptoms with a bunch of medications, and those medications ending up making you have to get more medications, which coincidentally the same people make. And you get stuck in this system that's actually just keeping you more and more sick. You might actually feel better in the short term because you're managing symptoms, but on the inside, I promise you, that's not the same story. Yeah.
And see, if it was about going on a diet and being on a low calorie diet, then why do we have a massive health crisis at the moment? Why is obesity bigger than it's ever been? Why are we relying on a weight loss injection to fix the problem if it was all about calories?
Yeah, I think people should ask themselves that question, because what we've been doing so far, right? Also, to someone who might be listening to this, if you're like struggling with type 2 diabetes, if you're struggling with, I don't know, psoriasis, your mental health, you're depressed, how has what you've been doing so far, how has that worked for you?
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference what diet you're doing. If you're going by the trend and people are telling you that the reason why you're not getting in shape is because you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not following the law of thermodynamics, it doesn't matter. No matter what diet you're doing, it's all the same. It's all the exact same. So whether you're doing whether you're doing, like, I don't know, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, whatever it is, everybody will say to you, no matter what diet you're doing, you need to be in a calorie deficit. You won't lose weight unless you're in a calorie deficit. Here's the problem. Yes, you can lose weight being in a calorie deficit, but if you've got a lot of sugar in that diet, it's not going to last very long.
No, you will end up like being some sort of diabetic, pre-diabetic, like maybe even type 2 diabetes, and at the end of the day, your body has no idea what this arbitrary term calories is, right? Your body runs on nutrients, it runs on fats and proteins and vitamins and minerals. It has no idea what that thing is.
Exactly.
And if we're not going to get into the technicals, but technically it's actually completely irrelevant, but we don't need to go too deep into that right now. But yeah, your body doesn't know what that is. And what you're basically doing if you're losing weight on a calorie deficit is you're depriving your body of what it needs.
Exactly. Yeah,
you're not getting the nutrients you need.
It's a form of restriction.
Yeah. You're basically abusing your body. That's what you're actually doing. And also, you don't know what that weight is made up of. Weight is a lot of things. It's water, it's fat, it's muscle. What if you're losing muscle? Is that a good thing? No.
And when you look at people that are actually under eating and overeating, these are forms of eating disorders. So this is why when we look at calorie deficits and you're putting your body into a rough calorie deficit, you're putting your body into a situation it doesn't want to be. This is just going to cause an awful lot of stress. Your cortisol is going to go through the roof. You're going to spike your blood sugar, and this is going to have an impact on your hunger. And this is the biggest thing we see with people that go on a diet. Most people that go on a diet, the first thing they'll say to you is, I struggled with my hunger. I couldn't keep it up. I had these regular cravings. I couldn't go a day without eating sugar. And like you said, this is the problem. So many people are addicted to sugar. And I also want to point out as well that we're not just talking about processed sugar. We're not talking about natural sugar. We're talking about, guys, carbohydrates. No matter what carbohydrate you're eating, whether that's fruit, sweet potato, quinoa, rice, vegetables, it's all carbohydrates. Okay, they might have a different impact in regards to your blood sugar, but they all turn to sugar in the body, and they will all impact the body the exact same. If you have too much sugar in your body, it will lead to inflammation. Now, if you have too much inflammation in your body, this is when you end up getting these diseases. So what's the point in looking absolutely amazing, if down the line you're gonna have a health problem? Which is more important, dealing with that health problem or just looking amazing when you look in the mirror?
Yeah, that's really the question people have to ask themselves, right? And just look at my story as an example, right? When I fell into this whole calorie counting thing, that was a lot of carbohydrates, and it was protein. It was the protein, and carbohydrates, because that was low in calorie, right? And just imagine, like, where do you think all those issues came from? My mental health, my IBS and everything, my anxiety, all that. Where do you think it comes from? All the blood sugar spikes I must have had without being aware of all that stuff. I definitely had like crashes all the time, right? And your body needs more and more and more and more to satisfy the dopamine hit. And it actually ended up being an addiction in itself for me. I think that's maybe I should go more into that to show people, to like paint the picture of what this becomes in real life, right? And you might not even be aware of your behaviors, right? I maybe wasn't, right? I was just living like that. So the losing weight and the calorie counting stuff became an addiction in itself. I had to constantly make sure that, I didn't go over this number and this number, because I was afraid of putting on weight and stuff, right? And I actually kept at like the end of all this stuff, I was so emaciated. I looked like a ghost, right? I actually went way too far with it because I couldn't handle the thought of maybe putting on some weight, meaning I just kept eating less and less and less, filling up with more and more volume and less actual bioavailable nutrition, right? And so that's how bad it can actually end up when you're solely focused on how you look. Because I was at the point where I was kind of at the same time, I was happy with how I looked because I had my abs and everything, and I was finally not fat and everything and liked what I saw. But the thought was always, but I can look better. I can look even better. But my body was wrecked. My mental health was wrecked. I was probably heading straight for just not existing anymore. I don't know if it would be from a heart attack or me doing it myself, right? Because I did actually have some cramping in my heart as well that came sometimes, and heart palpitations. I had so many issues, like joint pain, just fatigue in general, it's the list is so long. We could stand here for like 5 years talking about it. But yeah, I just wanted to tell that so people can see like what this behavior actually is, right? You're not focusing on like actually feeding yourself correctly. You're focusing on, oh, I have to look this certain way. And that's not the way to go about nutrition, right? That's to give your body what it needs to run and thrive and all that. And yeah, I see with a lot of people my age that it's always this like grind to look as good as possible, right? I think a lot of people fall into that same thing as me, where they take it too far, and it's always, I look good, but I can look even better. But what does that looking better, what does that mean for your health, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's another good point as well, because when you look at the young people now, I mean, look where look at the direction they're going into now. You look at women, they're getting their lips done, they're getting their bum done. You look at the guys, they're taking the steroids, they're taking the enhancements. So you can clearly see that it's just about body image. They're not focusing on the health aspect. They just want to look amazing. They just want to have the body. They don't care about their health. They just want to have that body. You know what I mean? That's what sells. So when they go on social media and they sell themselves, it's like, look at me, look at my abs, look at the way I train. And that's the toxic atmosphere that we're dealing with at the moment. There's way too many young influencers that are doing this. And then when they do get into the industry, a lot of people are falling for this crap because they're looking at these people and saying, okay, well, these people are extremely healthy. Whatever they're eating, I can eat. So when they talk about the processed food and they talk about the crap, and they're saying, like, listen, don't be listening to the mainstream media. You can eat this food in moderation. You can have your sugar. You can have your cereal. You can have all this in moderation and look like me. It's just it's so poor. It's the advice is so poor. I want to ask you another question. You said to me you suffered with IBS for a long time. And I'm sure a lot of people would have told you, okay, listen, you need to eat more fiber. And that's the one thing we're seeing on social media at the moment. We're seeing that people are pushing this agenda that you need to eat more fiber. The reason why you're not getting in shape is because you don't have enough fiber in your diet. So what's your opinion on that?
I would say I'm not a cow. But yeah, to get into it seriously, yeah, definitely. While I had my issues, right, I ran into this idea of if you get more fiber, it will be better. And I actually bought like this, what's it called, like xanthan gum thing, right? Because I thought, oh, adding this fiber to my stuff or my food, right, that will maybe that will help. And of course, the fiber will also fill me up. Yeah. But what people have to understand is the human system, our digestive system, can't break it down. We're not made for it. We're not cows. And actually, to put it into perspective, right, the animals that can break it down, the ruminant animals, let's just take that as an example, they don't gain their nutrition from this grass and fiber. They actually ferment bacteria, right, and they get protein and fat. That's what they live off of or thrive off of. And we don't have, or we have a very, very, very limited capacity to ferment this. But it's very small, and it's like from our ancestral past, it's only as a subsistence method, right? In times of starvation, where you maybe didn't get a successful hunt, right? You can't break it down. It's just adding fuel to the fire, right? If you have a traffic jam, right? It doesn't help putting in 500 more cars, right? That's just gonna make everything worse. And yeah, you can't digest it. You're just gonna add more volume to your stools, and who says that's good? You're gonna it ruptures your insides, right? I also had hemorrhoids, actually. What kind of teenage boy should sit there and bleed when they're going to let off their stools.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, of course, obviously, if your stools are larger, it's gonna put even more pressure on there, right? You have muscles that help you move the bowels. That's what they're there for. You don't need the fiber. It's only harming you, actually. And for me, cutting it all out removed my gut issues and my mental issues, right? All my physical issues, all my mental stuff, it's just gone and it doesn't come back.
And like you said, you've no issues going to the toilet whatsoever.
No. And I think many people conflate not going with being constipated too, right? The deal with eating a diet with meat, eggs, butter, fish, that sort of stuff is this stuff is so highly digestible that you have almost no waste, right? Back to the fiber. What is the stuff you're throwing out back there? It's wasted stuff your body doesn't use for anything. You didn't need it.
Yeah.
And with this sort of diet, you absorb pretty much all the nutrients, everything you need.
100%, because 100%, because that's one thing that I notice, that when you eat fiber, you're gonna get rid of it pretty much every day. But when you absorb meat, you're not going to be going frequently. You're going to be going probably once, maybe every 3 days, and that's perfectly fine. That's completely normal. It's completely normal. Your body's naturally meant to release it when it's ready, not to do it every single day, not to be forced to do it every day.
Yeah, and I mean, why do you think putting more stress on your intestines and your entire system in that way, like going to have bowel movements more often, why would that necessarily be good, right? You're just putting more pressure. I don't know. It's a strange idea, but yeah, for me, I don't even go every day, right? It can be 3, 4, 5 days sometimes, because I'm actually using what I'm putting into my body. It's not waste. And people need to understand that we don't use fiber for anything, pretty much a very, very small amount, but you don't need it. And what you get, again, is short chain fatty acids, and you can just get that from your meat. There's no reason to get that from fiber.
And see, there's a big difference between being full and being satisfied. And yes, you can be full on fiber, but if you're bloated, you're gassy, and you're farting every 2 minutes, that's not normal. That's not normal.
And this is definitely. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and I definitely. I was farting all the time, right? I almost had like I was almost tracking in my own head what my record was. I think it was 20 times in a row once. And that's not even a joke. But yeah, and for some reason I found it funny, but I guess it, like, the laughing is more of a stress response, right? It's not normal. You're not supposed to go around doing that, like producing all that extra gas. And as you said, like, the feeling of being satisfied is completely different than feeling full from, like, just being bloated or whatever, right? The fiber bloats you and actually, makes you feel horrible in your gut, and that's where extends your gut. And that used to be my idea of being full too. And it's crazy now that I'm on carnivore that I don't feel anything really in my gut when I've eaten. I can go do anything afterwards, and I don't worry about, oh, what if I have to run to the toilet or something? I just go on with my day and don't get bloated, don't feel like any IBS flare-ups, and nothing's or everything's working as it's supposed to down there.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we know the gut and brain connection. If you're feeding the gut really bad foods and a lot of fiber, it will impact the gut. And when we listen to Jonathan's message from the very, very beginning, this is what he suffered with all his life. You heard Jonathan, he suffered with mental health all his life. And guys, this is what we need to understand. He was feeding his gut the wrong food, and it was impacting his brain. No matter what food he came up with, he was eating the grains, he was eating the healthy foods, he was eating the vegetables, he was eating the carbohydrates, he was eating the lean sources of protein. Nothing was working for him. Nothing. And it was only impacting his brain. And his story has been shared so many times on social media. And these are the people that we need to be listening to. Jonathan's message should be listened to from a lot of people, because I know for a fact there's a lot of young kids out there at the moment that are going to be in the same situation as Jonathan now. And I'm hoping after this today, a lot of people will actually listen to it and start reaching out to Jonathan and asking him for his advice. Because I would rather see people go to Jonathan who's actually done this. I don't care whether Jonathan has a medical degree or he has the qualifications. What Jonathan has is the experience. He's done it. He's lived through it. He's been there. He's done it all. And this is what I just don't understand. Why are we not paying more attention to people like you? Why aren't doctors not listening to people like you when it comes to IBS? Why are we pushing people more towards fiber when we know that fiber is actually doing the damage when it comes to IBS? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the message you hear everywhere still. It's true here in Norway as well, just so people know that. You hear all these like magical wonder stories about our country, and we have the exact same messages. Our health guidelines, it's the same. What you hear in the media, it's the same. Every time Carnivore gets like a spotlight, every time it's happened, they have this sort of nutritionist or dietitian or whatever coming on to say that it's dangerous, you're gonna get heart disease, you're gonna be nutrient deficient, and it's just a fad. It's one of the funniest ones I've seen is this one. They use this woman every single time pretty much, and she always says it's placebo. I would love to meet this woman and tell her my story. Yeah. How will she tell me that was placebo? I didn't even know about this thing. It's not possible. But yeah, and actually on the doctor thing as well, I went to the doctor once while being Carnivore just because my family, they're supportive, right? Because they saw the difference in me. They know how this has affected me, but they were worried about the nutrient deficiencies and all that. And after they annoyed me enough, I wanted them to stop doing that. So I went to the family doctor. I had never met her before, right? I never went with any of my issues. Got a blood panel, and when it came back, we sat down. She told me, this, Jonathan, is actually the most perfect blood panel I've ever seen in any of my clients. But yeah, do you think she was curious about this thing I was doing, or wondering, why did your depression go away? Why is your IBS just completely gone? No. Of course, she's indoctrinated into this ideology they have and went straight on the offense with me, like, you're gonna put yourself in danger and you're gonna be nutrient deficient, and actually started trying to push medication on me as well. And I just told her, I'm not here to get any prescription from you. That's not my goal of coming here. I'm here to make my family stop bugging me. That's it. And I could tell she got a little bit riled up, right? She didn't like this. She wanted to push that pill on me because, this will help you be able to actually eat some of that stuff, even though you have your IBS. And yeah, lastly, I just asked her a simple question. And I think it's a fair question. I asked her, do you think any of the advice or anything like medication wise that you've given to anyone, do you think it's actually cured them of anything ever? And what she did was she threw me out, and I've never heard from the woman again. And that should tell you everything about this system that we have nowadays, right?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's just insane that someone like you that has reversed all their conditions, they're not just turning around saying to you, okay, Jonathan, I want to know what happened. I want to know how it happened so I can actually help other people. But no, they're still convinced that taking a statin is the way. It's just insane. It really is. It's just, and honestly, I've heard these stories many times, many times. And unfortunately, I actually had a doctor on my show there, on my podcast around about a year ago. And he actually told me face to face that he can't go against the guidelines. That's what he said to me. He said to me, Mark,
Wow.
I can't talk about this. I'm not allowed.
That's actually wild.
Yeah. That's no word of a lie. And I actually have another guy that I only spoke to last week, Dave, and we actually had this conversation as well. And he had the exact same experience that when he went to see his doctor, and he told him, like, listen, I've cured all my diseases, I've lost all the weight, you need to listen to me. The doctor turned him down and says to him, I can't speak about this. I have to go by the guidelines. It's just, it's a paid system. These people are getting paid a lot of money to prescribe you medication, which is absolutely insane. And it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that that's the route we're going at the moment, because I only put a video of this up this morning. You only need to look around. Everybody keeps on telling me that we're getting healthier. Everybody's getting healthier. Yet when you look at our hospitals are getting worse. Okay? Type 2 diabetes is getting worse. You look at children and ADHD. It's getting worse. You know what I mean? Obesity is getting worse. People are in chronic pain. You know what I mean? So I don't see any improvements. I don't see any improvement whatsoever. And everybody now is on medication. Everybody's on these weight loss injections. And this is where hopefully I'm hoping we don't end up going down this route in the next 4 or 5, 10 years time, because we all know that if the powers to be, if they get their way, we're going to be in serious trouble. We have to do whatever it takes to keep our farmers, keep our butchers in business, because if we get to a stage where we cannot eat meat anymore, and we're eating meat that's made out of a lab, and we're eating crap, and we're eating processed food, I can only imagine what's going to happen. There's going to be even more people on medication, and what's happening is you're giving people the reason why they're sick, so you can actually sell them this solution, and that makes me absolutely disgusted.
Yeah, and this is why in my message I really stress very hardly on the point that people start taking all of these matters into your own hands. Don't sit there and rely on anyone else to do this for you. Take it into your own hands. Don't assume, like, question everything you hear, right? Even Mark and I right here, don't take our words for anything, right? Question us as well. And don't go around being so naive that you assume the messages you hear in the media, from your doctor, from your government, from anything. Don't assume it's for your own good, right? You should rather assume that they have their own interests in this stuff and take it from there. That's a way better place to start. And I've actually, in my life, I've always had this idea that just because I've never really liked the city life, there's always been something off about it. I've always had the idea that I want to get my own little homestead and just move far away. But more and more every day, I'm considering just jumping into it as quickly as I can, not even just pretty much dropping everything I'm doing. I mean, not the spreading of my carnivore message and everything, but like just seriously find a way to just get that farm of my own as quickly as I can, have my own water supply, right? Just raise my own animals and everything. Just complete, like, to the degree that I can, just completely cut myself off from everything and rely on myself, not just for like my diet, that too, because who knows, suddenly someone wants meat to disappear from the stores and everything. You never know where it goes. And it doesn't seem like it's slowing down. There are people here in Norway that want to put even more taxes on meat and everything. They last year they did a revision of the health guidelines. Like the Nordic countries, they kind of collaborate on finding all the information and all, and of course they have the typical WHO sources and everything. Really just survey studies and association stuff. And you even see on their reasoning, when you look into their own documents, they're public. You see, we don't have sufficient evidence to make this decision, but on the plant-based fats and oils and stuff, you should eat more. We also don't have sufficient evidence for red meat being dangerous for you, but we're gonna lower it to, I think it's 350 grams per week. I eat more than that every day.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I just want people to seriously start questioning all these messages you're hearing, and just think for yourselves, is this here for my own best? Is this here to support me, or is it there to support someone else's interests, right? Just, it doesn't even have to be you going fully carnivore. Just start questioning some things, right? Oh,
100.
okay. It says, it said reconnecting, but you're back now. But that's why I stress so much on the point of just start thinking for yourself, take matters into your own hands, right? You actually do have the power to do that. You don't need to rely on all these things, or to a certain degree, it's hard to disconnect yourself 100%, but to the degree you can make it possible, I would recommend just go for it. And in my personal life, just every day, I think more and more about it. I need to just, like, seriously consider getting that farm of my own as fast as I can, really.
Absolutely. Well, Jonathan, I want to be respectful of your time, and I want people to reach out to you. So where's the best place for people to find you?
Okay, so mainly on Instagram and YouTube is where I am at the moment. I go by Norse Carnivore, Norse, and then Carnivore. Just if you have any questions, if you want to reach out, like, just talk about this stuff, if you're curious, right? Just if you need someone to talk to or help with all of this, don't hesitate to reach out to me, right? And other people in this carnivore community too, right? We're all here, almost ready at your doorstep, ready to support you in this, right? We want to see you succeed, and we want to see you thrive in your own life. That's the mission. That's why I'm doing this. And even though it's hard to share all these personal things with my struggles, I just really hope it can resonate with someone out there, and that my message can somehow reach them and show them that there is a way you can get out of this. I know how easy it is to walk around feeling like you have no control, like you're lost, you were unlucky, right? But just listen to stories out there, right? Mine, others. There are so many crazy like health issues people have reversed with carnivore, even like ME and schizophrenia. Like, who would have thought that? And lastly, I want to say, after just letting you know that, seriously, just, you might not feel like it, but you actually have the power in you to take control of your own health and turn this around. You really can do it. And I want you also to know that just, you don't have to do this alone, right? We're all here ready to stand by your side and help you through all of this.
Absolutely amazing, Jonathan. Amazing message. Absolutely amazing. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure. We've done well over an hour. We could have spoke for another hour. But I'm gonna be working with you now in the next couple of weeks, and I'm actually looking forward to it on your own YouTube channel. And I can only see big things for you, young man, very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. And it's been a pleasure to come on here and talk to you. It means so much to me to get opportunities like this to share my story. It just means the world to me. Thank you.
No problem at all. And I'll be in touch with you very soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.